Hello friends, how you doing? It's Matt and you listen to episode 22 of the Looking Sideways Action Sports podcast. My podcast where I try and uncover the most fascinating stories in action sports and other related endeavours. If you're a regular, you will definitely know the drill by now. If you're a first timer drawn here by my guest Travis Rice, then I hope you enjoy the show and I hope you stick around to do some exploring, dig into the back catalogue and just generally find out what the Looking Sideways podcast is all about. So it's been a busy one down here in the southeast corner of England, which is where I live. Usually I unfollow anyone I see using this most hackneyed of pre-winter phrases, but just this once I'm going to say it. Winter is coming, and that means the changing of the seasons here in the UK is marked by the ski show at the end of October. I've now been to, I realised, I think 23 of these things, which is when the whole winter sports and winter holiday tribe get together. Maybe it's 22 or 23. I've been way too many anyway. And we've got that, and then also whatever random gatherings the pre-season throws up. And in this case, we had the Human Nature art show featuring luminaries such as Brian Iguchi and Jamie Lynn, and Travis Rice's Depth Perception premiere, which passed through London for a couple of days and was the reason I could grab a chat with the great man himself. So I've got a couple of things to say about this one before we get cracking. Firstly, a ski show party the night before meant I was a little bit croaky voiced when I came to meet Travis. I think regular listeners of the podcast are going to recognise that. There's a few little surreptitious coughs going on, so forgive me for that one. And the second thing to say is, well, it's Travis Rice, isn't it? And when I sat down to start this thing back in early 2017, I drew up a wish list of guests, and of course, Travis Rice was on there. I'd got absolutely no idea how I was going to get him on the podcast, but you know, you got to aim high. And I was obviously pretty stoked when he agreed to meet me in London after a little bit of back and forth with various PR agencies and sponsors. And I don't mind admitting, I'm going to put this down to the mild middle-aged anxiety brought on by the hangover that I had, or the fact that it was Travis motherfucking Rice. But I was a little bit nervous before this one. I've been interviewing snowboarders for over 20 years now, Jesus, and it's usually water off a duck's back, to be honest. But yeah, on this occasion, I was definitely a little bit apprehensive. The fact that the people working at his hotel, the Strand Palace in London, do not ever go there, were absolute bellends, didn't really help. But once we got our location sorted and settled down, it became clear that I needn't have worried, because Travis got right into the spirit of the Looking Sideways podcast, as you're going to hear, and is as intriguing and focused a character as you'd expect if you've got any kind of passing acquaintance with his films or career. Because as I suspected, Travis Rice is a thinker. He's careful to consider his answers, and he's also careful to imbue substance into everything he does. And the theme that swiftly became apparent as our conversation unfolded is that Travis enjoys being challenged. Unlearning, unknowing, unfamiliar spaces. These are phrases that cropped up during the course of our conversation, and listening to him use these phrases in the context of a long description of his career suddenly made a lot of sense to me. Striving, pushing, working hard, seizing opportunity, it's all here. And sure, if you followed his meteoric success, you might suspect that those elements played a key role, but it's good to get it confirmed. And there are other couple of things to listen out for, particularly an anecdote about his in his early career travel budgets, which I thought was pretty telling, and an almost throwaway line about the importance of developing relationships in snowboarding, which holds true for any type of career or endeavour. Now, if you've been listening to this for a while, you know me, I try and steer clear of all the cut price Tim Ferriss relatable stuff. But in this case, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that these are rather obvious lessons. And if you apply them to your own life, it's probably not a bad idea, really. So yeah, a great episode this. And we do cover a lot. We talk a lot about depth perception and how it's definitely a change of direction for Travis. We talk about how he got sponsored. We talk about the fourth phase. And we talk about Travis's reaction to the backlash that he's had over the years for the particular style of his own films, particularly a notorious Whitelines review of the fourth phase, which I've handily linked to in my show notes over at www.wearelooking.sideways.com if you want to check that one out. We also talked about his thoughts on the future of snowboarding, his plans for his own career and where that's going to take him, and plenty more basically. So I hope you enjoy it. I very much did so. I very much enjoyed talking to Travis. So here it is, my interview with Travis Rice on the power of not knowing. Enjoy. So Travis.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Man, I'm good.
Yeah?
A little worn down. Europe has been a full... we basically have been slightly turning up the amplification throughout our whole European tour.
Right.
And we hit 11 in Russia.
Okay. That happens in Russia.
Yeah, we hit 11 in Russia. And
that's what happened to me when I went to Russia as well. They like that. It involves vodka normally, right?
Yeah, it does. But, getting to London and having a couple shows, having a little time to kind of catch back up.
Yeah.
Good. Stoked to be in the city here.
Yeah. You've been here a few times though, right?
Oh, yeah. Love London.
Yeah. So the film, I saw it last night and really enjoyed it. So how's it been going down?
Well, we it's funny because I didn't think this really happened much anymore, but we proved that wrong. We finished editing at like 3 a.m. the day of the premiere. Wow. So
okay, so that's the same for everybody then. Deadlines.
Yeah, we've been riding this one hard.
Right.
It was a film that I think we took a lot of risks doing the film the way we did it and the style we did it. But so far, the response has been super positive, and I truly love the project. I'm super proud of everyone's hard work that went into it, and the fact that we came out of it with something that it's positive, it's authentic, it makes you want to go snowboarding.
So I was going to ask you that because it is a departure. It seems to be stylistically from like the fourth phase and the other films. Was that an intentional thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spent 4 years working on the fourth phase, and it was a beast of a project, which, a heavy post-production process last summer, and, super proud of what it was and the amount of effort that went into it. And so, kind of stumbling out of that project, this was an absolute departure because we didn't want to jump back into anything like we had just done. And the freedom that came with, it was just us. Like, it was just me, this guy Chip Taylor, who edited majority of the fourth phase, and this guy Chris Murphy from Helio and Company out of Bozeman. We brought him on to help kind of round out our little team, and that's all it was. We didn't really tell anybody we were making it. We were doing it. We had a little bit of support. Quicksilver helped us kind of get the thing started, and then we were able to pick up some more support along the way. But it was a really streamlined project. It was efficient.
I mean, compared to the others, there's, like you say, small crew, one location. It looked like you scored the weather. Looked like you got amazing conditions. Excuse me. Whereas obviously fourth phase, one of the things that I got from that was it looked like that was hard. It looked like sometimes you had troubles with weather, there's a lot of travel, a lot of logistics. Was this one almost a bit more enjoyable in that way because you could just concentrate on the project and the riding? Yeah,
this one, I mean, I feel like we found a lot of symmetry with this project. A lot of doors just opened and things unfolded in a pretty positive way that made the project easy.
Okay.
And, we went in thinking we were going to do a little short format, 15, 20 minute art film. And after the first 3 weeks of riding, which was the planned trip,
right,
I think we all looked at each other, myself, and then, Brian Fox, Austin Sweet, and Robin Van Gin as well. And we were like, man, this feels really good. Like, let's double down on this and finish what we came here to do. I mean, we saw the sun one day in 3 weeks,
right,
on our first shoot. And so here we all shined the rest of our obligations and engagements for the winter and doubled down and ended up going back up, convinced CMH Heli in Canada to kind of double down with us as well. And after they closed down for their guests in public at CMH Galena Lodge and kind of the area we shot this at, we went back up, and the staff was super accommodating, and we gave it one last go. We had another like 2.5 weeks and called in some favors like Ty Evans. Ty Evans came up with his shot over system, and we were able to shoot.
Those shots are beautiful. Like,
yeah.
So I mean, what the other thing I was going to say is the riding in it is really relatable. Obviously, the riding is full on as you'd expect, but because of the way it's shot and because it's a lot of free riding and a lot of pillows and a lot of beautiful powder riding, you do look at it and you do think, you know, compared to some of the other films where you look, it might be quite well, you know you're never going to do that. But in this film, it looks, yeah. I mean, is that something that was conscious, or did that just come out of the filming?
I mean, it was intentional. Our goal was to highlight all different aspects of riding.
Yeah.
That you can do in a place like this.
Yeah.
It's got the high alpine, it's got the super dynamic, really, you know, crazy terrain in tree line. And that was just it. All conditions, all styles of riding. And we wanted to make a fun project, get you juiced to go ride, because we were juiced to go ride.
Well, you scored it. Yeah. Look like fun for sure.
Yeah.
And how did you pick those guys that you worked with, the riders?
They were kind of a natural choice. I mean, I've traveled with Brian quite a bit, known him for a while, and I think this one it was kind of easy because we're on the Quick team together, and I think that was part of it, getting support from Quick. But you know, Sweeten, he's a super up and coming. I mean, the guy is one of the best big mountain freestyle riders that I know. He's tiny in the way that he's able to like bounce and land like a flying squirrel. Like the ratio of his board size to his body weight, you see it when he goes fast and he ollies or hits jumps. He literally he like has lift underneath his board. And then whatever, they're just good guys, and everyone has their own kind of dynamic uniqueness about them. And it was fun to do a film with only 4 people, because then you got to dive in a little deeper to kind of portray their characters, which it's always tough because, I have these projects and there's 12, 13 people, and I want to spend so much time. I want to try to convey who these people are and set their character up, but man, you just don't have the time. And then getting Robin on the project was a huge bonus for us. You know, I wanted to have a woman on the Fourth Phase project, and we kind of had it lining up, and then it kind of fell through. And that was a little bit of a regret on not having a woman involved in our last film. So for this one, it was a no-brainer. It was like, all right. And, it made it easy because Robin, she's super well-versed in the backcountry. I mean, she has more certs than we do as far as like your avalanche certs,
right?
Medical, first responder. She's been doing some guiding up at Baldface.
Okay.
Just for fun. And so
right,
having her on a program, I mean, we were more backed up.
Yeah.
With her on it.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the dynamic of the team really comes across, I think. And there's also like a conceit at the center of the film that isn't immediately obvious when you watch it. I'm not really going to say what that is because I think it helps if people can watch the film and let that unfold. Where did that idea come from?
You mean like storyline?
Yeah, the narration device and the way that you kind of reveal it at the end. And,
bottom line, we've always tried to share and portray the beauty and uniqueness of these locations that we're lucky enough to go to. I mean, that's always kind of been the goal. And I think we really, when we did That's It, That's All, being able to bring aerial unit and shoot, that all of a sudden helped put the viewer in a much better position to understand the world around where we are operating. And so this was, I think, trying to take that a step further. And, with the single location, I wanted to tell more of a story about like the symbiosis of the forest, of the flora and fauna, the climatology of the area, the geology of the area, and what makes it so dynamic. And with the title Depth Perception, granted, I guess I've been explaining this for other languages, so
right,
sure, depth perception, right? Binocular vision we humans have, but to take it a step further, depth perception is also trying to see a little deeper than your first gut shot glance,
beyond the surface.
Yeah. And so with that, and that was one of the big challenges with this too, is like, how do you portray in a fun way these kind of deeper scientific and almost spiritual elements of an area like this? Did
you take any influences from anywhere in the approach that you used? From
anyone?
From any of the filmmakers or from any of the projects?
Well, from our previous projects, I think probably took a little bit from every single one of them. Over the years, you work on it and you try hard, and some things work, and you always learn from your mistakes. I definitely think it was more, interesting ways to convey information. That's really what it came down to. There's a lot of incredible directors out there. You can't help but draw a line from, like, say, Wes Anderson. It's definitely a little bit more like it's got roots in like kind of a hipster art film for sure.
That's what I was getting at. I guess you can see there are influences from outside the snowboarding film genre. So I just wondered how conscious that was, because that was the thing that struck me when I watched it as well.
Yeah, I think part of it was looking outside for other ideas, and then the other part was just trying to sit down and figure out what the challenge that we were presented with and conveying information, and how best to utilize, other styles, from, narration to motion graphics, to make it fun and give a little more of an authentic feel of what it's like on a trip like this.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. When you're on a trip, ride powder with friends, it's fucking antics. It's, it's a little bit of everything.
It's snowboarding. That's why everyone goes snowboarding. It's the whole point, isn't it? So I'm going to ask you about the fourth phase, because, when we came in, I asked you if you'd read the White Lines review of the fourth phase.
Yeah.
Which you have. And there was some criticisms, if you like, in about the style of the films that you developed, almost like saying that there was a visual cliche developing. Did you think that was fair when you read that? How do you respond to that kind of thing?
Well, whatever. It's a review, right? A review is a very personal opinion. And I remember someone forwarded me this like article from this person, Pengu, who, you're going to hide behind a anonymous profile to write a review? I don't know. Honestly, I think we had more fun than actually felt criticized with that interview. We ended up reading it out loud, and actually,
right,
we had a really good laugh about his perspective.
Right.
And whatever, it's a review.
Yeah.
The fourth phase is what the fourth phase is, and it's what I felt was really funny was one of the setups, one of the like messages that came through the fourth phase was to put aside expectation, because expectation is a setup to be disappointed in life in general.
Yeah.
And literally the entire review was about this guy's expectations of what the film was, and about how the film was different, or didn't fall in line with those expectations. So I thought it was kind of funny that it seemed like he completely missed the point.
Right. There's a line in the new film which describes you, and it's kind of, I'm going to find it, it's kind of played for laughs. It says, "Never before has a man lived who was so entranced by the microscopic details of life." Is that an accurate description of how you live your life? I know it is played for laughs in the film, but it kind of struck me that because Liam Griffin, who's a friend of our, like mutual friend that we've got, I talked to him before this, and he did sort of imply that there was some truth in that.
Well, those lines, the character setup lines, were written by this woman Melissa Larson and a director.
Yeah, the script's great. I'm gonna,
and a director Chip, and I think those guys are always rolling their eyes a bit because I'm constantly pushing them to take it a little bit deeper, to dive into the underlying, science and nuances of, everything from technology to spirituality. And I think in response to, pushing them constantly through the last project and this project to let's dive a little deeper. Let's convey some of this information. Let's take a risk on this.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of their response.
It was one of the questions that I think people are really interested about with you, though, because I asked the listeners for some questions, because obviously when I said that you were going to be on the podcast, there's a lot of interest in that. And I think one of the common questions was like, how does he prepare for what he does physically and mentally? Do you have routines? Like, how do you look after yourself? Do you do yoga? Do you look at what you eat? I mean, is that something that you're really calculated on? Those details?
Yeah, man. I love to understand both how things work and to try to consistently remind myself that knowing is not necessarily the path to happiness. So
that's interesting. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I think that, facts, right? Like facts can be so precious to all of us, like our knowledge and the things that we latch onto as rock solid, concrete, little precious
articles of faith,
gems of knowledge. I mean, this kind of helps, I think, us figure out who our identity is. And the world that we grew up in, what I was taught in my youth and continue to be today from various sources, it's constantly evolving. And I mean, with the advent of, quantum physics and new research that's coming out, I mean, these like hard, fast truths that we grew up with are constantly being upended and
challenged.
And changed. And the world that we see around us kind of becomes more dynamic and less static. And so, I enjoy allowing what I know to not be so concrete.
Okay.
I enjoy the magic that comes out of the unlearning process, really. Because, you grow up, you grow old, and you learn all this stuff, and as you grow old, you kind of lose that like childlike joy, the freedom. And, you look and there's a lot of kind of old, bitter people stuck in their ways. And it really is weight, like physical weight, that kind of slows the body down. This when you stay less and less open.
Yeah. And there's a school of thought, isn't there, that aging is when you stop learning, basically.
And so I think that, there's this point where, for me, it was like, all right, bring it into more of an area of an unlearning, of an unwinding. And I really think that that's the path to youth and to joy and happiness.
Okay, so you're very proactive about that, about challenging your own assumptions that you might have.
Yeah, I try to be.
Yeah. Good way to live. Not easy.
No.
Not at all.
We seem to always take not the easy path.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of leads me to the next question, really, because you're obviously really synonymous with Jackson. And that's always struck me as an environment that helps with that kind of thought process and showing you a way of potentially living your life. I mean, did you grow up in Jackson? Is that where you're from?
Yeah. I was born there, grew up there.
Okay. And that's obviously a very particular environment, right?
Yes, Jackson is for me. It's a great home base. It's a place that I, can go home, be grounded, of family, friends. But I'll tell you, man, that Jackson is not really my relaxed place, honestly.
No.
I mean, I've got a symbol gallery there, and when I'm home, I'm usually at home and have the time and ability to do, finish up, work on projects. I mean, our editing and post process, and I think that's why I've spent so much time on sailing the past few years, because I get a little bit more disconnected and ability to.
Is that how you relax, if you like?
Not the only way I relax. I think it's just it sets up a little bit more unfamiliar space.
Okay.
For me to not get into the ruts of, I don't know. I feel a little less unstuck.
Okay. So what was it like growing up there as a young snowboarder? What how old were you when you sort of found snowboarding?
I didn't find snowboarding really till I was about 13.
So you skied
12,
before
13.
that?
Yeah, skied before that. Skied before I even remember.
And were you in the ski club, presumably? Like that kind of thing?
I did a little bit. There was a couple years that I raced a little bit, but I just remember, one particular race, and we were up on Jackson Hole, and we were like slipping powder off of the course. And, for me, I loved ride POW. We did.
Yeah.
Other than POW riding, skiing was a little bit boring. I mean, it was just not that, when you do it from when you're just a little kid before you even learn, turning wasn't all that awesome. And that's why when I tried snowboarding, and the art of the turn, the challenge of like linking those first couple turns, that something happened where the finesse of just linking the turns, and the art of the carve, I'm still pursuing that.
That's what hooked you.
20 years later.
Yeah.
I still love turning edge to edge on a single edge.
Yeah. Okay. So who were the kind of influences back then when you were growing up snowboarding in Jackson?
Well, my influences were all in Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely was a complete consumer of core media.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
The magazines.
That's what you do, isn't it?
The videos.
Yeah. Because he was around then, like Lance Pittman. He's a Jackson local.
Yeah, the people like this guy Brody Dowell, who he had the first time I ever saw him do backside rodeo.
Right.
Then Lance Pittman was amazing. Brian Taguchi was there.
Yeah.
And then occasionally they'd bring people to Jackson. But, really, I think for a lot of people, Peter Line, Craig Kelly, Terrier, these types of names were pretty influential. But for me, it was like the locals.
Yeah.
It was the locals in Jackson that I was looking up to and paying attention.
So what was your routine, like in those teen years, the sort of 10,000 hour years, if you like, when, you're just caning it and you're building it?
Routine, right? Tuesday, 4:00 to 9:00 every day, Tuesday through Friday, riding the resort at night riding.
Really?
Because we had lights on the town hill.
Right.
And so, that was it. Every day after school.
Okay.
We go snowboard.
Yeah.
Every day. And then the weekend, go to the big mountain, go to the resort.
Okay. So caned it basically for those years.
Yeah, just logging hours.
Yeah.
Just, Snow King is a really steep mountain.
Yeah, I rode there 2 years ago. So it's right in town, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right in town.
Yeah,
I think it's
like two lifts, isn't it, or something? Or like maybe even one lift or something.
It's got 3 now.
Okay.
It's actually about to expand. But that mountain has, in all of North America, that mountain has the steepest terrain for how large the resort is.
That's a fun resort, for sure.
Yeah. Even when it's icy.
Yeah.
It's north facing.
I was going to say, it's in the shade, isn't it, that place?
Yeah, it's steep and it's icy, and I think it was perfect.
Yeah. So when did you start to, I'm going to ask you for the quick pod history. When did you start to sort of like get the sponsorship and start looking at it as you like think, okay, well maybe I could take this further?
It's a good question. I was able to get on the snowboard team and traveled and did some like youth events, youth contests. I did okay. I was good. I wasn't great. I won a couple events, but small little things.
Yeah.
And I think our big thing was I was in a TV class.
Okay.
I took a bunch of TV news classes, where go up in high school and, TV news would be 10 minutes at the beginning of school.
Okay.
The whole school watches
Really?
and we go out and.
You did that as a class?
Yeah. It
Right.
was so epic.
Okay.
TV news was the best because we'd go do all these like super funny stories on.
And what's that all about then? They're just getting you out and...
TV news class. So we'd literally do a live
Wow.
news
I
broadcast
didn't know about
in the morning for the whole school.
that. Okay.
It was epic. Everyone in school tuned in.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't every day. I think it was twice a week or something. But we were able to rent the cameras,
Right.
and we were able to check them out of school. And so the minute that I had a driver's license at 16, we would constantly check out, these shoulder mount, big
Wow.
beta tape. Shoulder mount cameras, and we would just take them into the mountains and go shoot snowboarding.
Right.
Me and a couple other snowboarders, we were all in the same TV class, and so that was it. We'd take shit and we'd go make our own little movies, make like little sponsor me videos, and go make funny skits. And so I think that kind of later really parlayed into really enjoying the filmmaking side and having some confidence in doing that. Started then.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess it's like, the time I remember seeing you kind of blow up, it's like Super Park maybe, like 2001. Is that about right?
Yeah. 2001. Before that, I went twice to Europe for Junior Worlds. So,
right, okay. Well, because you used to do those events.
Yeah, so there was like 2 years that I was competing and actually went to Mount Bachelor for like the training session and went into Europe.
Right.
So I was going for it. I wasn't sponsored at that time, but I was working construction in the summer to help pay for the winter.
Yeah.
And I got on Flow. I remember my first sponsorship was my buddy's dad was like a Rosignol rep. And I got a free board, a free mechanical pencil, and one of those plastic change cups.
That's a solid deal. Right.
And I was psyched. I was like, free snowboard? Are you kidding me?
Stoked. Yeah.
And I don't know, I was probably 17. Yeah.
And then it broadened.
Yeah. And then I was able to finish high school early, which I did some additional like science credits. I went to this like marine biology school in the summer down in Florida actually, and got some science credits finished. So I was able to graduate in like January 5th. And then I took that winter off.
Right.
And kind of pursued it. And again, did okay, didn't do great on the contest that I went to, but a big part of snowboarding too is the relationships you develop.
Sure.
And then that spring, I got the random, invite from my guys in Jackson to go to Super Park.
Yeah.
I didn't have an invite, but they were like, fuck it, just get in the car with us. We're going to California.
Yeah.
Got there and they were able to talk Pat Bridges into letting me up.
Yeah.
Last minute.
Yeah. Did that. And there you go.
Did that. Yeah. Got MVP. I mean, that was like one of the biggest Super Parks there was. It was like 80 or 90 pros from all over the world.
It was a big deal, wasn't it, back then? It was one of the big sort of media events, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
good place to announce yourself, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, right time, right place.
Yeah. Did you see that at the time? Were you like, this is an opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, I saw it as an opportunity for sure. I was just psyched to go ride like perfect jumps. With the setup was amazing.
Yeah.
And being from Jackson, we didn't really have much of a park there. So anytime I got to travel to like Colorado or to California and ride park, that's all I wanted to do.
Park, yeah.
All I wanted to do was go ride park.
So when it became clear that you might be able to have a career in it, did you have a master plan? Might sound like a silly question, but did you always have what I'm getting at is did you have a strong sense of how you wanted to live a possible pro career as a snowboarder? Because obviously you can go a lot of different ways, can't you? And from looking at your career from the outside, it's always looked quite controlled. It's always looked like you've had a really clear idea of where you wanted to get to and how you wanted to get there. Was that there from the start?
No, I think what was there from the start was a lot of motivation and desire to work harder than anyone else I knew. I would go to a contest on the weekend, and then I would have like four days, and I'd just go into the backcountry and try to like film. And then I wouldn't show up for practice for the contest, and then get there and just do the contest. And so I was just I was just working harder than everyone else around me. And I had a lot of friends who, had these like small travel budgets, like $5,000, and I was kind of in a similar boat.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so like baffled because, we get towards the end of the season and I had guys who are like, well, that's my year. I'm out of travel budget. I'm just going to cruise around home. And I was like, what? Like,
right.
And so I was tapping into, my hard-earned money. And for the first 10 years of my career, I paid out of pocket more than twice like what I had as a travel budget for that year,
right,
to go and pursue it. And, I look at it in hindsight and it was an investment in myself, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably the best money I ever spent was, putting my money into
yourself.
In myself. And even for our film projects, it was kind of the same story. Like it, I think from the outside, it does look like well produced and organized and like a real laid out plan.
Yeah.
And so much of what we've done has just been like shooting from the hip and
following opportunity.
And like, all right, I'm not going to wait for this film to be totally greenlit. Like
I'm going to make it happen.
Like, I'm going to put up some money.
Yeah.
Let's go do it. And then we'll figure it out as it goes.
Have you always had that work ethic since you were a kid? Because that's what you're talking about, isn't it? You're talking about like wanting to go out there and get it, basically. And as you said, projects, it's another question I've got. You've always got a project, there's always something going on. Have you always had that?
It's tough I've always been really motivated. I've always had a lot of energy. I don't know when I was younger because it was different, that you put your energy into other things. I always had plenty of energy though. And, to bring it full circle, like this depth perception project, same deal. Like we didn't have a plan to go and shoot this movie.
Yeah.
And we came out of the fourth phase and we had this little spark to go give it a shot. And we realized that we had something really special to us.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, Hail Mary. Like, let's call in some favors, see if sponsors will double down with us. And it was awesome. They did. I mean, Skull Candy came in, helped us out, saved us. Roxy stepped up to like help Robin back. Quicksilver, like, I'm sure rolled their eyes, but they had our back from the very beginning. And then CMH, that was the big one. It was this, pretty major company.
Yeah, sure.
Large corporation.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure most of their business is skiing.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, we'll take a chance on these snowboarders.
Well, and also that, they're not massively a part of it in the film. So there's quite a nice backseat with the sponsorship and the branding, if you like, in the film. It's pretty low key, isn't it? Which is another thing I really liked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were pretty much tired of looking at slow motion shots of helicopters.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Seriously.
So what's next? What's the next project? There's got to be one.
I mean, there's always another project for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do this winter. We're still finishing off little pieces of depth perception. It's going to come out November 7th to actually be for sale, and we're still putting some things in so for that to come out successfully. I mean, the Supernatural contest I did in Canada.
Yeah, another thing I was going to ask you about. Yeah.
So what's next? I've always really believed in that project.
Did they turn out in the way that you wanted them to?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, they did, in the sense that we actually ran the event. We got the best riders in the world for that type of riding to come
at the best place. In the best conditions.
One of the best places.
Yeah.
We had pretty incredible conditions. I won't say perfect conditions for sure, but we had good enough conditions to run the event, and it was an amazing kind of beta version of what Want It to become.
Okay,
learned a lot from those events, and honestly, it's been 4 years, and I've been working for the last 4 years behind the scenes on the next iteration of that.
Okay. When's that likely to happen?
We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I think doing it after the Olympics here would be perfect. People would be tired and fed up with pretty much over the whole Olympics hoopla and ready for something fresh. And that's when I would like to do it. But
I guess that's what I touch you next. I mean, you've got a pretty unique perspective on competitive snowboarding with the projects that you've done. So where do you think it's going to go generally? Because it's a big debate, isn't it? Like how do we...
Competitive snowboarding? I mean, I think look to the youth for that one, man. I don't know. It's incredible what they're doing. I mean, I'm a total fan. For many years, I draw inspiration from the youth, those guys. I mean, I'm glad that I'm not competitive snowboarding anymore. It is psycho what these guys are doing, and they're making it fucking look good too, which is really refreshing. There was that like hurdle where for a little while it was these double corks that look kind of staunch, kind of like I think what my double cork's like these days. And now these days these guys making it look amazing.
Yeah.
And so I mean, look, that's here to stay. Like competitive snowboarding, half pipe, slope style, it's not going anywhere. It'll stay around. The thing that is missing right now in snowboarding is that, when I was young, you had 20-year span in a competition, from older guys to younger guys, people competing together, and now with the level of skill needed to ride like that, it's such a more precise thing. You have fewer people graduating into the ranks of the top 10 being able to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, it's great, but it's not representing the entirety of snowboarding and how dynamic it really is. And so I believe that there needs to be a next step to that, something that you graduate from that type of riding, or you don't even go through the channels of that. And then, something like the Supernatural, where it takes the freestyle prowess, but also being able to draw a unique line down the mountain.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's got to be 90% of people when, describe your ideal day, what you want to go do. It's like, I want to go, ride powder.
I want a nice powder turn.
Yeah, basically. Nice powder turn and score it. And so, I think it's that pure interaction with the mountain where I think kind of what's missing is, the parks and pipe, the rider is the character.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It's how it should be. But
well, that's mainstream sport.
What's missing is that, I really think that the mountain and the conditions and the course and the uniqueness of how to draw that line, that's kind of what's missing.
Which is something that we've never cracked in snowboarding, really, is it?
I mean, not consistently. I mean,
whereas in surfing, for example, those conditions are a lot of the time they are the point, aren't they? It is about that, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not that they're completely relatable, but
Sure. I mean, each place that you see on the World Surf League World Tour it's unique.
Yeah.
And it's about that kind of dance between Mother Nature and those types of conditions and how one best interprets it and is able to ride with it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm going to continue to try to see if I can't get this thing online.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people would love to see it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I got a few listener ones I'm going to rip through, if that's cool.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who's been to Alaska a lot was interested in how you approach riding Alaska and like your line and trick choices. His question was, is it calculated to the 9th degree, or is there an element of, as he puts it, fuck it, I've got this?
It's a beautiful combination.
Yeah.
It's like hands down, it starts with the calculation. We're not riding lines up there without knowing exactly where we want to go.
Of course.
You can't.
You can't do it.
You won't last.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful balance of, you look and you see the line that you want to do, and you memorize it, and you know where your exits are, you know where your safe spots are. But I think the beauty of it is that it's trying to take in your head, the like challenging line, or do you want to put a freestyle element into that? Or, how challenging do you want to make it for yourself? Then you go to the top, and at a certain point I find, when things work out the best, you take your plan, you visualize it, and then you got to let it go. Like there's a time where, for me, before I drop in, I'll take a couple deep breaths, and you just let the plan go. You know where you need to go and what you want to do. But if you stay, rigidly fixated on trying to write it exactly like that, then you don't stay open to in the moment interpretations and adjustments, because it's always a little different than it looks from the face or from what you can see from the top.
Does that come from experience? Do you find?
Sure, trial and error of trying to find when things really click. And,
sure.
And so, you have your plan in the back of your head, but finding flow, you can't be thinking about it.
No.
And attached to that.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What are you starting? How old are you now?
35.
35.
Just turned 35.
Do you start looking at the future? And where it could lead? What might be on the horizon?
I'm kind of too busy looking at the present right now. I don't know. I always said that, said to myself that, as soon as I kind of lose interest in, what it is I'm doing as a professional snowboarder, look elsewhere for inspiration. And I'm still feeling pretty inspired. I still really love what I get to do. I love the people who I get to do it with. And I don't know. I don't really have an exit plan. There's a lot of things that I'm really interested in life, and I still feel super good. And I'm going to take it one year at a time.
What things are inspiring you right now then?
I'm pretty inspired with, I think, alternative energy. And I live up in Wyoming, and there's a lot of kind of geothermal activity and new potential ways to make geothermal more efficient. It's incredible what's happening with solar. Look into where I think quantum physics is happening, and how it's starting to be flushed a little down into more of a mainstream approachable place from its kind of very confusing start so many years ago. Navigation for me, sailing the last multiple years and seeing places far and away, and the differences of a place that doesn't have like fishery restrictions. And like this last trip, we got to sail to a few places that like marine restricted areas out in the middle of the ocean. And
where'd you go?
We sailed from Tahiti up to Hawaii.
Wow.
And then there's a chain called the Line Islands halfway through. And it's just not really traversed. People don't sail through there.
Okay. Well, that is the middle of the Pacific, right?
Yeah, middle of the Pacific.
Middle of Polynesia, basically.
And just seeing how fucking healthy and diverse like the fishery areas where, it was protected from the big like harvesting fishing boats that are coming from China and other places.
Right.
They just come and just catch everything.
Yeah. Okay. It's a bit of a glimpse of what it could be, almost.
I spend a lot of time with like product development. This new bindings that worked on for a few years with Union just came out, called the Falcor. That was a really awesome and successful project with LibTech. It's been really fun designing new boards, and we, last year put out the Climax, which is the first carbon board that those guys have tried to do. And that was like years of testing, because carbon is twangy. Carbon's just uncomfortable as shit to ride. And so after a bunch of years of testing various different ways of laying it up, finally figuring out a way to do it where you get the sprock and the snappiness that carbon brings and the weight savings without the vibrations. It's a soft, Beautiful ride. I don't know. It's a board called the Climax.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time on it last
Yeah,
week.
yeah, right.
It's expensive, but
Yeah.
it's
Were you pleased?
It's a race car.
Okay. Right.
So, and with a lot of the sponsors being able to do stuff, Quicksilver, I spend a couple weeks every year working on, outerwear and tweaking. And
yeah.
So I enjoy the design process.
Yeah, you like that part of it. Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give you the classic looking sideways question. You got 1 day snowboarding left. Where would you go?
1 day snowboarding left. Well, go to AK, man. One good day in AK is the best day you'll ever have for me. That, or we'll just go rip some turns in the local hill.
Yeah.
For old time's sake.
Yeah, sure. Back to Snow King.
Yeah. Back to Snow King.
And one last trick. If you could only do one more trick, what would it be?
They're just super cranked out switch method, man. Been
Nice.
trying to get that thing to look good. It still looks like shit.
Okay, Travis, I think we need to get you to the ski show. So thank you, man. Appreciate
Hey, man.
it.
No worries. I'd rather hang out here.
I'm a bit worried your team manager's going to be beating the door down. But yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, well, appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity in the chat.
So there you go. That was my interview with Travis Rice, and what a legend, eh? Listening back, I was a little bit shit when he said he'd have been up for giving me more time at the end. But to be honest, I was told I strictly had 45 minutes, and I was pretty aware that he had a signing at the ski show to get to. I was thinking of all those disappointed kids if he was going to be late. Plus, we had to get some pictures. So I was feeling like I had to kind of cut it short and help him get there on time, really. But yeah, it turns out he'd have gassed away for way longer. So that's good to know. And I'd like to think that part 2 of the chat is just postponed for now. So next time I'll pass across, I'll be sure to have the old recorder with me. And in short, Travis, it'd be great to get you on here again if you're up for it. You know, what I really liked about that chat was being able to witness Travis's remarkable energy, really. He mentioned it himself. And obviously it comes across in the conversation because he's got that type of personality. But the man is a force of nature. It's true. It's literally pouring out of him. And that's something that I've noticed a lot when it comes to high-level athletes. And secondly, as with my interview with Peter Hellicott earlier in the year, this one's just got a lot of great lines in it. When I was going through the show notes and picking out the quotes for the page, there was just almost too many good ones to pick out, really. And it was great to hear that he enjoys pushing himself mentally as much as he does physically. So nice one, Travis. Good on you for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. So what else is going on? Well, if you follow me on Instagram, and that's We Look Sideways on Instagram, you'll also see that I interviewed Brian Iguchi over the course of the weekend, and that was great. I had a hugely enjoyable few hours wandering up and down the South Bank by the River Thames with Brian on Saturday. Yet again, disclaimer, spoiler alert, we were both pretty hungover because we'd been at the Human Nature show the night before. But I'm happy to report he's as much of a stoked, lovely man as he appears. If you're a fan of Brian Iguchi, and there's a lot of you out there, I can tell from the reaction that those pictures I posted got, you're not going to be disappointed in my interview with Brian. He was a legend, and it was great. So keep them peeled for that one. So I've also got a few trips coming up during which I'm hoping to tie in some podcast business. I'm off to Portland for a few days, which should be fun. Got a couple lined up there. I'm off to the Kendall Mountain Film Festival. And then in December, I'm off to Sydney for a month. Of course, I'll be going fully tooled up for some podcast business on each of these trips. And I do already have quite a long list of people that I'd like to get in touch with and chat to. But if you've got any ideas on people that I should feature, then do, of course, let me know. And yeah, if you want to slag me for the lack of women yet again, which is still happening, then go for it. I'm all ears. So you can contact me on the website, www.wearelookingsideways.com, on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. As I've said, Twitter and Instagram, I am at We Look Sideways, or by emailing me on podcast@wearelookingsideways.com. And I'd be very pleased to hear from you on each of those avenues if you want to do that. So yeah, that's it for me for this week. Thanks as ever for listening. And until the next time, I'll see you later. Nice one. Cheers.